Comparison steals your focus. You have your own unique perspective. Okay, why did you even start this? There has to be a fine line between producer and consumer, but the goalpost is always moving. Yourself are amazing. And welcome back to the Creatively Connected podcast. I'm your host, Chris Rippy. Today is another solo episode, and we're diving straight into it on why comparison is killing your creativity as a creative. And it's we're all guilty of this, of doom scrolling and being on social media and seeing other people that are winning, that maybe doing what we want to do, or maybe it's what we're currently doing. They're just doing it at a higher scale. And it's like, why can't I get that opportunity? Why doesn't my work look like that? Why can't I'm framing it the exact same way they framed it? I'm using their LUTs. Why doesn't my work look like their work? And it's a comparison steals your focus. It steals the focus from your own work and it puts it on someone else's, and it robs you of your own creativity. There's been many times where I've tried to emulate a style of shot or a color grade or a transition, and it just didn't quite look exactly like the example or what I was trying to do. And then it just led me down another, kind of rabbit hole of trying different things. And then it took me so far away from my original idea of how I wanted to tell the story. And it made me lose complete focus on my own work. So you can't get too caught up in comparison to other creatives, or it'll pull you so far away from, your goals and how you're made and to tell a story, your perspective, right? You have your own unique perspective. You have your own unique angles and way you tell stories. So don't try to focus too much on, what other people are doing. Because then it leads you into, rushing and instead of focusing and creating and building what it is that you're actually set out to do. Comparison makes you rush instead of build. It makes you feel like you're, kind of behind. You're seeing someone else do something, and it's like, okay, well, I gotta do all this because they're already doing it, and I'm, 5 steps, 10 steps behind. You're probably not. You're probably not even that much further behind. You might be in front of them. The problem is people, only share wins on social media. They only share the highlight reel, and you're comparing their highlight reel to your behind the scenes. Let things be messy. Let it, you see a polished product on social media. Most times there's some creators that do a really good job of, sharing the rough, the authentic, the real behind the scenes. And those are usually the ones that win, because in 2026, people don't always want polish. They want to see that someone is a real human being, especially in the age of AI. They want to see that they have real problems. They want to be able to relate through those pain points, through those problems. And they're that much more likely to support you and to engage with you and to book you if they do see that, as opposed to someone who, might have 10,000 views or likes on this post, but it's not converting to anything, right? So, I've been, very guilty of rushing, especially when I see someone else doing something. For example, and talking about AI, this was an AI video the other day, but someone was like, comment, AI, and I'll send you the prompt. And I'm like, I have to get that prompt because they're already doing it. 400 people have already commented for it. So if they're going to get it, at least half of them is going to create something with that. And then I'm just getting like left behind almost. So, and that's not the case. It's just a psychological thing that made me feel rushed to get to a certain, point, to a destination, not my end goal, but it was, I needed to get to this spot faster because somebody else was doing it. Whole time I could have just been creating my own thing the way that I wanted to, the way that I know how to. I would have been a lot more happier. I would have actually gotten the work done instead of just being scrambled all over the place trying to, get this down to a T, what someone else did, when really there was no benefit for me, right? Comparison turns progress into pressure. I felt pressure in that sense to, okay, well, I'm going to fall behind in this AI stuff. And I'm just using AI for an example, but I'm going to fall behind if I don't get this prompt and don't start really going after this. So it's that progress turns into pressure, and when you're under pressure, when you're working under pressure, it's a good thing sometimes because it might lead to better work. But when it's in a sense of comparison to someone else, that pressure isn't necessarily meaning you're getting better or you're working on something worthwhile, something that aligns with you as a creator, right? It's a pressure that's just kind of sitting and weighing on your shoulders when it doesn't even have to exist. And it also disconnects you from why you even started in the first place. I mean, you can be so caught up in comparison, in comparing your, year 5 to someone else's year 15, and it, you're only seeing what they're getting. You're seeing them being, full-time remote. Maybe they're taking trips, or they're, doing what it is that you're trying to do. And you get lost in that. You get lost in the glitz and the glamour and the views and the, the comments, to where it's like, okay, why did you even start this? And I'm kind of in that boat right now, to where I'm like, well, why did I start this? Why did I pick up a camera back in 2018 and start documenting everything and start videoing people and editing and crafting stories to tell, and then start putting out your own content, or, start up a podcast for creative human beings? Why did you start all this? And I don't think lately I would be thinking that as much if I wasn't scrolling as much as I have been. We're guilty of it. I create a lot. I'm a producer in the content world, but I can also be a consumer too. And there has to be a fine line between producer and consumer. It's okay to consume, to get ideas and to get, inspiration, and just to get the creative juices flowing and see what the market and other people are doing as well. But when you get so caught up in that consumer mindset, it disconnects you from why you started. What are you trying to create? What are you building through all of this? And this is something in real time. I mean, this morning too, it's been going on for, weeks now, but it's like, why did you start this? Where are you headed with this stuff? Like, you're doing really good. You're making, waves. You're working with people. You just hit, your first 6-figure year last year. Like, but where am I going with all of this? What is my North Star? What's the end destination? And I'd be lying if I said, like, I have that figured out. I'd be lying if I said I'm going here, that's my end destination, and when I get there, I'll be happy. Because it's not true. I think as creatives, you have to be able to pivot and work on new things and build new avenues and new tunnels to work through. Sure, I'm very successful videographer and content creator, worked with a lot of people, done this and that, scaled, my independent solo video business to over 6 figures. And that was at one point in time the dream. If I step out of my office and into my bedroom, 15 yards away, I have that written down. Make 6 figures as a content creator, work with music artists and brands. It's like I've done what I set out to do. Sure, there's so much more to do. I'm by no means like hit my ceiling. I'm not saying that. But when I first started out in this stuff, I set these goals, and these were like my end goal. They seemed so far stretched for me that I never thought I would get to that point. Now I'm at the point where I've done all that I wanted to do with this. In a sense, from when I first picked up a camera and was like, I'm going after this dream. I've done everything that I, said that I wanted to do. But the goalpost is always moving. There's always more added to your plate. Once you get to a certain point, you figure out, okay, well, I can do this with this skill, and I can just translate my videography skills and start a podcast, and I know how to edit and all of this. I already have that knowledge, and I can scale that up, and you're just building. You're constantly building. But when you're comparing to other people that's doing it, when you watch a podcast, or you're watching this podcast, you're like, I want to start a podcast. Well, quit watching my podcast and go start your podcast. Or I want to go on tour. Or I want to, shoot at the Super Bowl. It's good to consume, but you have to be more of a producer. You have to be more of a producer in your own creative realm and less of consumption and less comparison, because it will disconnect you from your own goals. It'll disconnect you from why you started, and it keeps you copying others instead of creating. You know, you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time with content or with anything creative. But when you copy and it disconnects, it turns progress into pressure. It emulates something that's not your own brand. And if I could, leave you with one thing today, it is that no one's got your perspective. Nobody's got your eye. No one's got your way of telling stories. No one's got your experiences. So if you can provide the world with that in your own unique way, then why would you ever want to tell it from another person's point of view? Why would you want to go on and emulate the creator that's got over 1 million followers and that connects with all sorts of people, when you have your own way of telling the story, when you have your own brand that you're building? I'll never forget when I first started out in this, and in content, it was nowhere near what it is today, and that was 6 or so years ago. I've done a lot of 6, 7 references. I feel like I'm freaking in middle school, so I'm trying to cut those out. But when I first started out, I don't even remember what creator their name is. I don't even follow them anymore. They're just so far, but they were shooting sports, and that's what I was mainly doing when I got into this videography space. They were shooting sports, and it was all that I wanted to do was travel like they were. They were shooting sports just like I was, but I was trapped to one team. They were kind of being flown all over the place, and working with multiple different athletes, multiple teams. Their social media following was going up like 2,000 a week. I'm just like, I'm doing exactly what it is they're doing. Why can't I see that success? And it got me down in the dumps for the longest, because in the moment I'm working with the sports team while I was in college, and the season went by. I had one more season left before I was graduated, and I didn't have anything guaranteed there. So I'm like, if I'm going to blow this brand up like they've been able to do on TikTok and Instagram, I got one season. I got one season left before I don't know what's to come. And that progress that I had made, the opportunity, the dream that I had been living, that I'd got the opportunity to live in that moment, all of that progress, I wasn't seeing it as progress. I wasn't seeing it as growth. I was seeing it as pressure to be like this other creator. And it robbed me of a lot of moments of being present, of different ways I could have took my own content and shot it differently, as opposed to just trying to emulate this creator's style of work. And thank God I got out of that. And it wasn't that person did anything wrong, but I had to unfollow them because I just found myself copying everything that they were doing. And not like to a T. It might be the on-screen text, or it might be, a gimbal transition, or I don't even remember. It's so far long ago now that it's like I don't remember that. But I do remember comparing my journey, my camera gear, my equipment, the views they were getting, to my own. And that discouraged me. It made me feel like I was, I'm not going to say I was a failure, but it made me feel like I wasn't doing something right to get the reach that I knew I could get. And so I unfollowed them. And I advise you, if you're listening to this and there's a creator that, you watch and you learn from, and that you maybe emulate from time to time, unfollow them today. Even if it's me. My feelings won't be hurt. I'm telling you to do it. Unfollow whoever that you're religiously watching and comparing yourself to, comparing your journey, comparing your, week 6 or month 6 or year 6 to their year 10, 15, or 20. it's sad. I see so many creators that just try to follow the narrative, that they don't create their own lane in this space. And this is beyond, videographers and photographers. This goes to anyone putting out content. I mean, if you're a business and you're trying to, scale your brand, get more clients, if you run the same ads that the company that's a mile and a half down the road from you runs, you're probably not going to see that much more business, because you're just doing the same thing somebody else is doing. And it's so easy to do that in today's time, in 2026. It's never been more of a consumer market. So many are consumers. The vast majority are consumers. If you're watching this and you've made it to this point, you're probably, a creator, and you're kind of on the verge of sometimes being a producer, sometimes being a consumer. Maybe it's leaning more so one way than the other. Produce more than you consume. And if there's someone's content that you're consuming right now and it's making you feel like you haven't, hit your mark yet, or you haven't done enough to consider yourself to be a successful creator, unfollow them, get rid of them, and just do this for you. Remember where it is you're heading. Remember why you even started. That'd be a good place to start, is remember why you started this in the first place. If you're in this for views or to just get followers and not have it convert to any kind of business, whether that's booking, whether that's selling digital products, infographic, whatever, it is, keep creating. You never know when your big break is going to be. For me, there's been a couple different moments in my career where it was opportunity came about, and I just seized it and took it and got so caught up in that opportunity that I couldn't even compare myself. I didn't have the time to go scroll and find ideas and make it something that it wasn't mine, and those were the ones that I credit to, being a big break moment, or to launching me that much further ahead in my journey. And it's those few moments, I was so caught up in them that there wasn't no comparison. There wasn't no looking at someone else and saying they got it better than me. It's like, no, I'm blessed to be here. I'm blessed to, use my creativity and turn that into a legitimate business that people pay me actual money for. And, if you've earned $1 from putting out content, from creating, you're already living a lot of people's dreams that will never get to that point. We get so caught up in doing this stuff that we oftentimes forget to realize that this is a blessing. Not everybody gets to do this. Not everybody gets to prop up a camera and lights and speak to human beings, or get on TikTok and post content that brings them in revenue, or post on Instagram that leads people into messaging them wanting to book their services. That is a blessing. I don't know the statistic numbers on it or anything like that, but a lot of people are sitting in a job they hate right now, working for someone that they probably hate, with people that they probably hate. And here you are, listening to this, wanting to better yourself as a creative, whether you're already doing it full time or maybe you're doing it part time. You've won. Now it's time to double down on what has worked for you and really scale this thing up and start creating full time for a living. Just don't compare yourself. Don't compare yourself. Yourself are amazing. You're talented. You're creative. And you don't need to be like anybody else. You need to be like you, and you need to start putting out more content. Content is the easiest way to build a brand in 2026. I don't know how long of a window we have to where it's so easily accessible and free to where anybody can do it. It can really change your life. It's changed mine. And what I mean by that is not in a way of content will change your life. If you post for 6 months to a year, you're going to be a millionaire. That's not what I mean. But it can set you up to where you never have to clock back into a job that you hate. Content can be a lead generating thing, and can just scale you to new heights and take you places and put you in rooms that you never would have ever imagined you could be in, all from posting content online. So quick solo episode today. I hope you found some value in this. Again, guys, I am like crazy undiagnosed ADHD, so sometimes I might ramble on and get off topic, and you might be like, now how did that connect to that? And it's just keep following along, don't compare yourself to me and keep following along. I appreciate you tuning in. If you need a little bit deeper dive, if you're a freelancer right now, you're trying to scale as maybe you're a videographer, a photographer, or content creator, and you want to be plugged into a group of like-minded individuals. I run a group. There's over 370 of us in there, I believe, right now, all connecting, leveling up together. I put paid opportunities in there as well from time to time, so you can get paid directly from being in this group. But it's linked in the description if you want to check it out. No pressure. But thank you guys for tuning into another episode of the Creatively Connected podcast. Be sure to follow us on social media. Stop comparing yourself. Comparison steals your focus from your own work, makes you rush instead of build. It turns progress into pressure, disconnects you from why you started, and it keeps you copying instead of creating. Write those down. Take those with you into this next week ahead, these next months, into 2026 and throughout, and build something that's meant for you and that lasts, and that is something you're proud of. Something you're proud of. That's the main thing. Build something that you're proud of. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. Be sure to go check out our other episodes. We have a whole list of episodes. We've been putting out podcast episodes for a minute, but now we're locked in, super consistent, having guests on. Just connecting with other creatives. Hence the name Creatively Connected. Anyways, guys, I got to run. A lot to do today. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace out.